Hey, Composing Gloves here, and this is drum and bass from the ground up. We're doing Breakcore. I finished the track because I am just more creative when I'm not recording myself, doing all the creative stuff. I've given you a lot of workflow stuff. So you saw some of the methods I used for the Breakcore thing, but now it's not done in the sense that it's done, but I like filled it out. It's for the most part there. It's not been mixed down yet. So you're going to notice a couple things really quick when I play through it that, like, for example, over here disappear. And so don't worry about that. That will be fixed in the mix down, or maybe I'll make my decisions critically about that particular those particular issues at that moment in time. So without further ado, here is a little preview of it, and then we will talk about it. So I'm pretty excited about this. So these are speeches, so you will hear. Ready? Here we go.
I believe that Gandhi's views were the most enlightened of all the political men in our time. We should strive to do things in his spirit, not to use violence in fighting for our cause, but by non-participation in anything you believe is evil.
There is only one real peace now, and that is peace for all time.
The confrontation was not created by the police. The confrontation was created by the people who charged the police. Gentlemen, get the thing straight once and for all. The policeman isn't there to create disorder. The policeman is there to preserve disorder.
The first imperative is the elementary necessity of maintaining our own national strength. Moral, economic, and military. It is still my conviction, as I wrote in 1947, the compelling necessities of the moment leave us no alternative to the maintenance of real and respectable strength. Even while supporting record military budgets. What each of us does, how each of us acts, has an influence on this budget.
I believe that Gandhi's views were the most enlightened of all the political men in our time. We should strive to do things in his spirit, not to use violence in fighting for our cause, but by non-participation in anything you believe is evil.
So yeah, I am pretty digging it. There's a couple of moments where I might put some more impact sounds, maybe drop a little sub in there occasionally to add a little punch. But for the most part, it is there, and it is cool. It's got a nifty sort of theme. I went from, so the Love of the Pigeon was just, I had recently listened to some Breakcore song and decided to name this after that just as a file name. Now for the track itself, it might be called Violence or Nonviolence. I don't know, something about that. It was kind of the idea. I went and looked up a bunch of public domain speeches. I found some Einstein talking about nonviolence, and I was like, oh man, this is some really solid stuff. I listen to a lot of speeches, but most of the ones I listen to are not in the public domain, so I can't use those, at least if I want to share this with anyone. The other thing, I found some Eisenhower. Now, as you can see, I did not even bother with spelling. I was just saving the file as a name. So you people out there who are going to ridicule me for misspelling stuff, I'm really sorry. I was just spelling it really fast, just typing it up. So I'm not sure, I may have misspelled Daly over here too, but we got some Richard Daly talking about some stuff. So, and this worked out to be quite awesome. So I filled out the track. I was filling it out, and then I'm like, man, this beginning is cool, but it's not like, it doesn't pull you in. It doesn't really make you like listen. Now, some of this stuff is covered up, and so I'm gonna need to arrange some sort of, a better relationship between the voices and this. And I have not doctored these. I doctored this one a little bit, which is why it sounds as clean as it does. It's just some basic EQ. So just got rid of some low rumble and junk. So it's not like that crazy. For the most part, it's there. Now, people who mix, there's this opinion that you can get super clean mixes by mixing as you go. And now if you're going to do that, you probably want to then do your creative stuff softer. It's an interesting deal, people who do that. I like to do it sometimes just to see the results I get, simply because they're different. But in this case, it would be very beneficial for me to turn everything down like I normally would and then mix it up, because stuff over here, like there are a couple parts where like he says question right there and it just completely disappears. So those are the speeches. Now, other things I did. Now, on 16, I've wanted to do this for a while. I finally just did it. And that is the string section. I have this melody. I switched it up. Oh, my bad. There's a delay right there. So let me put it where it's not. So you heard that. So I recently learned that F6 brings up this pattern editor, which is a nifty shortcut. So I replaced it. I simply just cloned it. I literally did this for just that one note, because I'm like, man, at the end was not doing it. So I added in this the tremolo. It's the exact same string library, just with a tremolo. And then I tried to do a little forte piano deal right here using the channel volume. So you could see Composing Gloves was here. Now the drums. So let's come over here. Now this entire section is like new. Like all this is new. And I'm trying to think if I did anything else at the beginning. So there are the speeches, really cool. I went and listened to a ton of stuff that were like, so I was digging through all sorts of things to find the ones that I would kind of wanted. And for the most part, that's there. This remains for the most part the same. I added in a couple reverse cymbals and crashes. And then over here, you noticed I added in this melody thing. This, if I bring up the channels, this is new. So this is a patch I just made real quick. Originally, I was thinking sort of a chiptune type deal, and then I went for like this like weird Reese rave thing. It is, if you go into my Learn FM synthesis, I use a series of serial. I don't even know where. I was like about to say parallel, and I'm like, wait, no, it is serial. So anyways, I use a whole bunch of serial connections, and they're not all low ratios. There's some mid ratios in there, a lot of timbral changes. And what's interesting is I have stuff where it's not quite a triangle wave. It's closer to a saw wave. And then my operator that has all this stuff going on is this saw wave. So you go watch my Citrus from the ground up, sound design with Citrus. I cover all this, and then Learn FM synthesis. So this isn't like something I'm going to try and just cram into this little video. Now, for you people who do know what all this stuff does, or at least you think you do, because some of you guys think you do, but you don't. Because I like this stuff. It's like there's so much stuff you can do here. It's insane. So there's a ratio 1. A wave. I didn't do anything special to these. It was simply just turning them on. Triangle wave, ratio 1. Now, not quite a triangle wave, like almost a saw wave. And you notice the tiny modulation indexes, tiny volume deals. So I guess that's what do you call it? Layman's version. less intense volume deals. They're modulation indexes. And then another triangle wave. This was at 0.5. This is an interesting deal. And you do see I do have this weird parallel thing going on with 5 and 4. And 5 is a saw wave. You know, this is just, at the time, I had like ideas about what I was doing, and I knew the effects they would have, but it's at like a ratio of 2, which changes. This isn't actually 0.05 isn't an accurate representation because of this. And remember, this is shifting up the chain, changing our timbre, so it's like this weird deal. And as a result, you just get this cool Reese thing because of some of these lower ratios, like 4 is 0.5, and then now 4 is being modulated by 0.5. It's shifting up this chain here. So there's like, anyways, I showed you all the things you really need to see except for 5. 5 is again this, so that's 5. Now I sent them in, so there are a couple things I'm doing here as well. I am using the EQ for once. I'm doing a lot of subtracting. Took out pretty much a lot of the low end, and I took out some of the mids, and I left the highs relatively where they were. Now, then that wasn't enough. So I turned these guys off, sent it to filter 1, sent ones out to filter 1. And then through filter 1, I am sending it through a filter, which I turned off in the long run. But yeah, originally I was using this to do the EQing, and then I wound up using this instead. So I was like, whatever. So this is sort of unnecessary at this point. But I sent it through 5, and then I used an order. Chorusing. Chorusing is contributing big time to this sound. Without it, that's what it sounds like with it. So that really helps, you know, bring out the image. And then there's a dry, so it's being mixed. And now there is a delay on this as well. It is a very short delay. So the time, I'm not going to move this because it's at a particular spot. For you people who know about delays, that's a touchy knob to be pushing, so I'm not going to push it. And I have a reverb on. So a lot of stuff going on in this little citrus patch that I made. I just made it as I was going, and I was like, dang, I really need like some sort of a lead thing here. And so I even pull a couple music theory tricks. If you listen, we are running around in the key of A minor, and there's a moment here where I switch, I go down to the 5th, or up to the 5th, I guess, up to the 5th, but I did it in a downward way. So I went from A to E, but E is the 5th. That's how I was thinking of the relationship. And I wrote out a new melody and kept most everything else the same. It's sort of, originally I was getting sort of a hardcore. I recently was working with some hardstyle stuff, so I'm a little jumbled up, which was, anyways, hardcore. And then it was like, I got to keep it breakcore. And then it turned into this weird trance thing. And I'm like, and so I started introducing my drums, and then I went hardcore breakcore. So how's that for a sentence? And what that is, so I guess let me really quick show you. I'm going to stay focused on it, but I'll show you what this whole drum deal is later, because this is true. This is really more realistically how breakcore is really done. I could break out Renoise and show you some really cool things about how stuff is done as well. And I was heavily considering opening it up and then doing this whole section with that. But then the idea of getting a project file and doing all that setup I was like, nah, dog, nah. I own Renoise. I don't own Redux. If I owned Redux, that would be pretty dope, because then I could open it up as a VST here. And so maybe I could open up FL as a VST in Renoise, but that, to me, I kind of want to do it the other way. Anyways, let's get back to the theory. So right now we have it in A minor. And I have these nice pitch bends. Just like, we're getting crazy. It's friggin' breakcore. You do whatever the freaking heck you want. That's part of the deal. So I'm gonna do, like, you could compress the crap out of it. You can do whatever you want. So it stays in A minor, and then I switch over. I believe it's on pattern 22. Nope, I stay there. Where is it? 23. Then I go to E. Yeah. So then I jump down a 5th. Really nice. Go back to the previous deal, and then I swoop out and go back to an orchestral deal. Now you might be wondering, why why is everything on one channel? If I want it to look impressive, and I've seen people do this and I just laugh at them because I'm like, you have so much crap on your screen, but it's like so simple. And if you ever wanted to go in there and work with it again, you're going to be friggin' clicking so many more menus and buttons. I keep this stuff. It's a pattern workflow. It's very similar to when I'm writing classical music. It tends to form up like this as well, and I made this section, I believe, in the last video. But what it is it's just more convenient to have everything in one pattern. Just is like, yeah, I'll have it all right here. There's nothing I can't get at that I want to get at that I want to separate out. If I do have something like that, I will take it and just make a new pattern for that one thing. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, it's so great. You just take it and you put it all out. But that's like such a terrible idea. Like 90% of the time, like it's less effective. You're clicking way more menus, and it just gives you the one plus is you kind of feel a little more legit because you have all this stuff that's right there on your screen. Looks kind of cool. But I'm telling you, such a huge waste of time and stuff. Like, don't waste. Are you making music? Are you trying to impress people? That's like two separate things. Like, making music that impresses people is not the same as making music and trying to impress people. There's a break there. So yeah, don't be a lame face that just separates crap to look cooler for your friends and family. Unless you like already have a legit sounding song and you're not going to touch it again, then sure. But I like to keep my stuff real, man, bro. So yeah, I normally don't separate stuff out unless I really have a big reason to, or it happens that way creatively. I'm totally for the it happens creatively side too. Like all the time, I have drum loops that just end up being separate things and ideas that I created separately. I'm cool with that method too. I'm just not cool with this blowing it up to look cool exclusively deal. I'm cool with it. If it happens creatively and it winds up looking cool, then that's fine. I'm cool with that. But as you see, this is not like this complicated, but it sounds insane because there's a lot going on. So yeah, you saw me make this whole chunk of stuff right here. So you didn't really see the lead though. So I wrote out a lead, MIDI music theory. If you want to know some of the ideas behind the lead, I used mostly passing tones and stuff, but I kept it kind of chordal. I did use an appoggiatura at one point in here. Where is it? One of these things is an appoggiatura. This is it. This is the appoggiatura. And what's kind of cool about this appoggiatura, which go watch the melody videos. They're in like the 70 and up in the MIDI music theory. I talk about there's a video for appoggiaturas, which is when you jump, so you leap and then you resolve stepwise. And so I've leaped to a dissonant tone and resolved to a chordal tone stepwise, but it's cool because I did it with a slide tone. So it's like, I was like, oh, modern junk. Yeah, here we go. So that is what is going on there. Now let's talk about these drums. So I went and found a break. It's an almond break. And let's back it up. So, okay, this is all new right here too. A lot of this stuff, I went in here and sort of found particular things I liked, and then I put it in here. You also notice that I put this low clicky thing, like, I put it there. I don't know. This is an interesting deal. I accidentally put it in the wrong spot originally, and then I gave it a listen. I'm like, you know what? It's kind of cool right there. It's just like, it's crazy. So I kind of left it there. This kick, though, has high. Very likely I'm going to change that. Like, I kind of hate this kick right now. So mostly because it's just the click and no sub. So maybe I would just add in the sub. It'll sound better. But I'm thinking about heavily like getting rid of that kick because it's annoying me. Anyways, yeah, I copied and pasted a lot of that stuff. I had this repeating, but it was too repetitive. Well, my voice just cracked. It was too repetitive, so I got rid of it and put it in a new thing. And then you hear me say my sample that I was trying to use. I used it. Yes. It is the one where I say breakcore. So over here, you hear me say break. Breakcore. And then you hear me go, core. You might be wondering, what black magic is this? Well, okay, so it's sampled, and I'm playing it back at regular speed, going through F. But that is not all that's happening. Of course, that can't be all that's happening. It's not that simple. It's a granulizer. Welcome to granulization. So I took my breakcore sample, and I broke it up so that I had the part that just said core. And you can see that's pretty cool. I've been really into this I've used this granulizer so much recently. Like, this is a powerful thing. I use it so much that now I've like gotten the habit of sort of going right here, but I just added it because I was so sick and tired of opening up this menu and not being able to find it. So I just put it up at the top. I'll probably change that at some point. But yeah, so it's just there, and I messed with the spacing, the wave spacing, and I left the hold where it's at. So if you play it back with all its default settings, C5 will be the regular speed. So I did that, and then I moved those settings around. I'm not automating, I'm keeping them stagnant so that it has that granular texture. Whoops, that's like, whoa. And then I pitch it down. Now my pitch bend on this thing is only at 2 or whatever, so I can't pitch it down that much with this. I could change that right now, but I'm hesitant to change anything when I'm explaining it because I might want it creatively for another reason later. So, and I just want things to look like they're supposed to look when I get to them. So I used a pitch bend thing because it allows you to do that really cool deal. How to make your first song in FL12. However, if you've survived it this far in this video, then you probably aren't wondering how to do basic things like navigating. So you get that, oh, and it's a really cool way to do your samples. So you may consider chopping them up. Now, this guy, so Breakcore and trackers. Okay. You know what? I'm going to show you Renoise real quick. So if you've never seen a tracker, this may blow your mind apart a little bit. Oh yeah, it's complaining because my VST folder is not writable. Failed MIDI device, blah, blah, blah. This is Renoise. This is a tracker. Now, what's cool about it? Oh, I forgot to say this. I'm wearing a hat. One of the coolest things about, like, this is so cool. Like, this is just cool. I get a huge kick out of working in environments like this because it's so radically different that you have to do things differently. And so what if you've never seen a tracker before, what you do is you put notes in this like little area. There's your pattern editor, and you can write them in, and just the whole workflow, everything's like crazy. But what's crazy about it is you can write in commands to trigger pieces of samples back and forth, and you can make it like sweep through samples. You can do all this insane mumbo jumbo while you're working, and it gives you sample playback capabilities that are just incredible. So here it's way more intuitive because you use one sample and then you trigger pieces of that sample over and over and over. And FL, now you might be thinking, oh, what about slide sticks? What about this? You don't understand some of the capabilities of trackers, man, bro, dude. Like, they are so freaking wicked. Like, they are cool stuff. What they could do is they can like re-trigger slices, they can gate slices, they just do it in a way that's so intuitive that like you just got to do it that way. I'm going to some pretty great extremes to do things that Renoise could do much easier, like for example this core, like with that retro stretchy feel. It's just simply not as intuitive. Now there are a number of issues if you want to get into Renoise that, like, for example, hexadecimal is what they use, and it makes way more sense to use hexadecimal in their system because you can represent so much more with 2 bits than you could the values you could arrange, because a lot of these things you have to type in values, and so they, like, for example, they have XX points, and if you want to jump to a particular part in your sample, you can jump to a lot more parts if you use a hexadecimal system than if you do just a simple what is our system? Decimal system. I was gonna say some crazy thing, and I'm like, wait, it's just decimal, so it's whatever. So if you've like gotten into programming, you've probably read about like binary so much, so hexadecimal would be a familiar concept to you. So because I use that occasionally for certain reasons, like for example that one, the ability to represent more stuff with 2 bits. But binaries is a whole separate deal. Binary is not even related to this topic. I don't even know why I'm telling you about this. So okay, let's jump over here. So I tried to recreate some of the stuff you would do in Renoise. Here, it's substantially less intuitive, but you can get the job done and come up with really, really cool stuff. So you can do the same thing. It's just a different workflow is what I'm saying. But I wanted to show you trackers. If you've never seen a tracker, it's amazing. You should look them up. There's free ones out there, I believe. Like, I believe you can get a MAD tracker. I believe there's like a free demo version and there's like a registered version. And you can download Renoise and you can go out. It's only $75. It's a freaking fully fledged DAW for $75. This is like amazing. The big bang for your buck. So I really enjoy it. So anyways, we have here our break, and what you do is you just I chopped it up like a crap ton, like just freaking. Now, things that you may want to know is keyboard shortcuts when doing crap like this. So let's say that like we have this over here, and we want to make a cool thingamablob right here. So we're gonna paste our thing. And so now you want to be doing stuff. Well, there's a couple ways I work about this. So if you push your middle mouse button and right click really fast, boom, this menu pops up. So you can get to your sample thing. You could chop it up a bunch of different, all manner of choppiness, and then you can go back. So I'm constantly flipping through this menu. It is way more efficient than running up here to touch crap. Another thing is you want to memorize a lot of these. So if there's 3 dots underneath it, that means that the M will make it unique. So if you have this menu open, you click here, that menu's open. These are the keyboard shortcuts. So if you want to make it unique as a sample, you hit a U. If you want to hit make unique, you make it unique. And you need to understand the differences between make unique as sample and make unique. Make unique will create an entirely separate thing that you can restretch and do everything to. Now, if you have something that you want to chop to a particular sample length, what you would be interested in is make unique as sample. Make unique as sample will allow you to take it just this section. So this little bit would become the new sample. There would be no more. This stuff would disappear if it was chopped to here. So you got to be aware of some of this stuff. So what you do is you make a bunch of crap unique, and then you take it and you would move stuff around. So you reverse it, you time stretch it. If you're gonna now one trick that I do, and I do it over here, is this guy right? No. Where are you? This guy. So this guy. So this was a piece of a sample from this break. What you do is you take it, you chop it, and then you hit Shift M, or you can just click this little stretch button up here. The more keyboard shortcuts I learn, the more I hate going up here to touch menus. I'm like, why isn't there a keyboard shortcut for that? That's kind of my opinion now. Whenever I come across, like for example, there's no keyboard shortcut that I know of. You can hit F10 to get to the mini menu, but you can't get to your file. There's no thing. But over here, oh, is there? Maybe there is. It's not showing. Normally, I look up here to see if there's keyboard shortcuts. Maybe there is a keyboard shortcut. Ooh, I'm gonna have to go look that up. I've always just assumed there wasn't one. But I know F10 opens up your MIDI. Oh my gosh, is there one? I was hitting additional F keys and it wasn't working. I gotta go look it up. I try to memorize a few keyboard shortcuts, new ones, to increase my workflow. Anyways, you take it, I took it, I hit Shift M, and then I stretched it out. Make sure your sample's unique when you do this, or all your crap's gonna get stretched out and you're gonna wanna undo what you just did. So you make it unique, and then when you stretch it out, it's going to be like, whoa, it's going to be like this low washy tone thing. So you want high frequencies back in it. So you simply pitch it up, and which is what I did here. As you can see, I pitched it up just some arbitrary value. And then you get that, that lo-fi stretched sound, which is what you wanted. So really, really cool. Now let's go back to the workflows ideas over here real quick. So you're doing your thing, and now let's say you want to create like a crazy chop section, like I keep going back and forth here, like something like that, or like this, like a stutter. And you saw me doing stuff earlier like crazy. So if you want to see me actually doing this stuff, you go watch the previous videos if for whatever reason you skipped them because they're like freaking long. What you do is you just take it, right, and you don't need to make unique. You hold Alt to shift it off the grid. You zoom out, and you just take it and you clone it a bunch of times. If you hold down Shift with the pencil tool, it'll draw it out for you. But it's giving me spaces. Why the heck is it giving me spaces? And so, whatever. So let's say this is your section, right? Or whatever. And you take it and you make your chop. You might want to make it really short. And then you hold down Shift and then you click Alt after. This is something I had to figure out. So you hold down Shift, click, then click Alt, and it will shift off the grid. You drag it where you want. Continue to hold Alt with your selection. That way you can chop it right to the grid so you can get some clean on the grid chopping later. So like when you duplicate it, it won't start getting off on time. You want it to line up with a line so that it'll line up. So now if we were to play this, you get that. So that's really cool. And you can, so a couple of things before you do something like this, you should be aware. You could record it, and then you could pitch the samples around and create this kind of like, which is something I didn't really take advantage of, but you could totally do that. Very common in Breakcore. Breakcore, so this is what they do. They just take breaks and they mangle the crap out of them. So you do that. A lot of people do crazy stuff with panning, and sometimes the panning's so radical that it introduces a new distortion, which ends up changing the timbre of the sound at that one spot, and it sounds just insane. So that's some options you have available to yourself. Now, I'll click, and let's say that I want to now do this effect later, well, in FL, and because in in Renoise, you simply just type in new values and boom, it happens for you immediately. You don't have to do any of this junk that I just did, but you can go over here to your little swiper tool. So you select your stuff, you go to your swiper tool, and then you just swipe around. I'm not sure if that's the official name. It's a slip tool. I like swiper though. Reminds me of like Dora the Explorer. So anyways, you can slip through here and you get... Whoa, that sound, you could record that, make it into a bass, and no one would know that that started out as what it did. So anyways, that is some ideas. I'm just giving you some ideas on how I chopped this up and made some decisions about it. You'll see there's all sorts of variations, and I also gated some of the stuff. Like right here, there's space in between things, which is really cool. So yeah, so after that, I came back and I'm like, okay, I hit around my 3-minute mark, and I'm getting up there. And I'm like, man, I don't want to make this like a 5-minute long song, and I want to maintain interest. I feel like having the breakdown, I was pretty satisfied with where this was. And so I came into this. Now, before I get into this, because I just realized I skipped something that a lot of you might be interested in. If you listen to the melody here, watch. It gets just, I just mangle it. And you believe it, it's gross beat. Now, back in the day, I heard all these crazy sounds and I had no idea how anyone did anything. So I was inventing all my own techniques to do stuff, which is a really good thing because I wasn't reading manuals. I was reading manuals a little bit, just enough to figure out what you need to do. Like you look up the question on Google or whatever. But one of the things I would do very commonly is I would just slap insane gross beat automation. Once I figured out what automation was, that's like a whole nother story. Anyways, I took the melody, which is the Screaming Mom. That's what I named it. And you just right click and you click automation on the pattern clips themselves. And then I just drag this like crap all over the map. And so it's triggering random velocity and things. Now, something that you should know about gross beat is that it by default has this trigger sync button. So it's cool. Oh, and also I was rolling, you got to wait. I believe you have to wait 2 bars before it, because it's got to fill up its buffer so that it can mangle your audio for you. Because it's real-time beat chopper. So it's pretty cool. Now, trigger slice and post sync. So these things fill up. Maybe what I just said is wrong. I don't know. You know what? I don't know right now. I'm not claiming to be the expert on this right now. I'll do tutorials on this one day and I'll read the manual and figure it all out in mumbo jumbo. But what you can do is you can make your thing, and I didn't bother. I just went with like the default presets and all that junk. And the trigger sync basically means that it will only pick the presets on the every 4 beats. Yeah, every 4 beats. So all the only points that really matter are here and here and here. All the stuff in the middle is just the way I got to whatever points I got to. Like that's literally the idea behind this. And I put it on the melody and it got like even crazier, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. So that was good. If anything sounded corny, I simply moved it around until I liked it, or I would come in here and change it, but I didn't do any changing. I just left it where it was. When you combine the amplitude with the time, I pointed at the one I was saying, the opposite one. When you point it, so here's the volume, the amplitude, and this is the time. And so there are times when I turn the volume off and let the time stretching do whatever it's going to do. But you notice right here they line up. So it's kind of ironic. Now, so yeah, that's like basic gross beat. If you're going to use it just a little bit, like that's like a cool application. You could turn off that trigger, and so that every single point in here would be its own deal. But you'd have to do that, at least right now. This is how I understand it. You got to go and you got to do that for every single preset. You got to come in here, go to trigger sync, and turn it off and whatever. So, I don't know what the deal is. I'll read up more on this, but right now that's the extent I sort of used with the plugin. So it's a really cool option. A lot of times if I want to get really like specific about things, because it's a really great option for live performance and automatable stuff like this, it's that I have a particular reason to grab it. But other times it's easier to just do stuff with time stretching myself. Now I might go in there for the time stretching capabilities and write out my own custom preset. That's one thing. But as far as amplitude goes, I might just do that myself. Like, there's no reason I could be more accurate and a lot more specific, and it's more intuitive, I feel, to have my own automation clip than to use gross beat if I'm going to go in there and make a custom preset, unless it's one I go for a lot, which is what they do. They have ones that speed up and slow down and trance ones. So for those kinds of reasons, but if I'm going to go in there to do specific volume automation, you might as well just write your own automation. So, yeah, now I'm trying to think if there's anything else really here. I ended with the last 2 bars and Einstein again, because I think Einstein's a really cool guy. Added a delay on his last little part of evil. I think he's pretty profound stuff he says. I'm really into, I listen to motivational like speeches and stuff all the time because I'm a big believer in having a vision and a dream and going full speed ahead to that dream. And as soon as you know what it is you have to do, all that's left to do is just to do it. So I'm like, dude, I'm all about that life. So he's talking about like how like if you think something's evil, you don't do it. Like he's not saying this is evil, don't do it. He's saying if you think it's evil, then why are you doing it? It's against your being. It wouldn't make sense for you as a person to do that thing. So don't do it. And arguably you wouldn't do it. But there are weird cases people get themselves in with internal conflicts that causes them to do it. And then this whole thing, he talks about a lot of other stuff though. So I kind of just took sections and pieces. So I kind of mangled what his actual intentions were. But that's because I'm making a track. I'm not writing a speech. And the same thing here. He talks about police and order and stuff, which is I thought was pretty cool. A lot of people, there's a lot of like poops hitting the fan, man, and like this is like most cops are great guys. Like if like probably 99%. There maybe there's always one. And there's always one that's like messed up. So like sure, there are bad things that happen, but there's so much more good that's happening that people just completely ignore. It's ridiculous. So yeah, so that's the ideas behind the track. That's the track itself. That's the compositional points. I'm trying to think if I changed anything else that I really ought to outline for you, because most of the stuff at this point now you just be creative and writing your stuff using those techniques. And now I'm going to be doing the mix down, which will probably be a freaking long mix down because this is like, wow, this is going to be a lot of little pieces to sort of put together. So yeah, my mixer is going to end up looking pretty crazy, I bet too, because I ended up only leaving like, I'm going to have crap over here. I already know I'm going to have crap over there. So you could type in values now with your mixer channel though, so maybe I'll use that feature. Yes, if you have any questions, let me know. What do you think of the track? Subscribe and have a blessed day.